Good morning, LisaBug Yoga for Posture. And this is the last class during the month of February, but I'm going to go back and reflect on what we learned 2 weeks ago because Jitsi did not record for us. And I did have some folks out of town that were not able to experience the class. And so we're going to revisit hamstring lengthening for good posture of the lower back and the pelvis. And so just a reminder, in week 1, we worked on the hip flexors because tight hip flexors pull our pelvis forward in an anterior tilt, which puts a lot of strain on the lower back, gives us an arch in our back. And then the tight hamstrings do the reverse. They tuck the pelvis under and pull the pelvis back into a posterior tilt. And you'll notice when I tuck under, it causes the upper back to round and we come forward into this posture. And it also contributes to the forward head position. So if we can lengthen our hamstrings and tilt our pelvis back up to neutral, everything else will follow along that nice line. We're also focusing on the difference between dynamic flexibility and stretching, static stretching, and also we're working on a concept called Pnf Stretching. It's used a lot in physical therapy. It stands for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitated stretching. And what it does is it sends a signal to the brain back and forth from receptors that are in our muscles and in our tendons that helps us to relax any tightness there and contributes to a better stretch. So we'll be using some of those techniques today. I have a hand towel, and I'd like for you to grab one, just a kitchen towel, something that we can roll up a little bit, just a smaller or medium towel. I also have my yoga strap, option for a couple of blocks, and we will definitely be using the chair if you have a small chair with you. If you don't, I'll give you options to do the same stretch without the chair. So what we're going to do is start down onto our backs today. And if you want, you can take that little hand towel and you can do 2 things with it. You can either make a pillow out of it so that your head is neutral, or you can take it and roll it up and make a little neck roll. So it just supports the back of your neck nicely. You don't have to use it, but it's just a nice tool to get that head in neutral position and to relax. So I'd just like for you to start in a comfortable position. Maybe your legs are outstretched, perhaps your knees are bent, and just find your breath. And take a moment to declutter your mind. Sometimes we have a lot on our plate for the day and we have some mental distractions when we are in our yoga practice. So I'd really like for you to put everything for your day on the back burner for the next 60 minutes. Come into the present moment. Give yourself a little bit of self-care today. You've taken this time for yourself, so it is truly a gift to pause for a moment from work, from obligations, from your phones, from the news that's going on in the world, and just to relax and settle in. Now, if you think about your hamstring muscle, it's not just one muscle, it's a group of muscles, and it attaches across 2 separate joints. So we'd like to start just by stretching gently at what we call the proximal attachment of the hamstring, and that means the attachment that's closest to the midline of the body. So I'd like you to reach your arms above your head, take a nice inhale, stretch. And as you exhale, pull your right knee up in toward your chest, give it a little hug, and we're stretching the proximal attachment at the hamstring, which is right here in the bottom, the sits bone area, the ischial tuberosity. It's a gentle stretch, also helps us to release tension in our lower back. And then as we inhale again, we'll reach the arms above the head, send that right leg long. This time pulling the left knee up to the chest and stretching that proximal attachment of the hamstring. And we get some glute stretching too. It's more than one muscle because they do work together as a team. And then I'd like for you just to go back and forth between sides at whatever speed you'd like. You can hold or you can move. One breath, one movement, inhaling on the reach and exhaling on the pull in toward the chest. Now, if you'd like to get a little bit more bang for your buck and activate your abdominals with this, as you pull that knee in, curl your head and shoulders up off your mat, pull the abdominals in tight, find your core. Then lay back on the breath, curl up as you exhale. And in terms of your ankle, you can either flex your foot to get a little stretch down the Achilles tendon, or you can point. Or if you're holding for a little bit, you can make some ankle circles. And let's do 2 more on each side. And I want you to feel that ischial tuberosity, the muscles that are attaching there, just a gentle stretch and a gentle release. And 1 more each side. This should feel really nice for the lower back, pressing it down into the mat. And last time on that left side. And then just relax the leg down, relax the head down to the mat as well. And then we'll bring the right knee up, maybe about 90 degrees, so it's stacked over the hip. So we've got a little bit of a stretch here at the proximal attachment, that ischial tuberosity, but it's not very deep. And I'd like for you to hold on to your leg, keep it secure, and then begin to straighten it and bend it any amount, whatever range of motion works for you. And take your time with this. If you're really tight in your hamstrings, you're maybe not likely to get the leg completely straight, at least on the first time. And if you're like, man, I'm never going to be able to get my leg straight with the leg up at 90 degrees, you can use your yoga strap as a little tool to hold behind the thigh and then let your leg lower down a little bit. So as you're bending and straightening, you still have the upper leg anchored, but now you're able to get your full range of motion. And we'll do 3 more on this side. So we have a gentle stretch at the proximal attachment, and now we're stretching what we call the distal attachment of the hamstring. And that's where that muscle crosses behind the back of the knee. And let's do 1 more. And then release that leg down. Now we'll pull that left knee up. Maybe it's about 90 degrees, stacking over the hip. Now, if you're really flexible, you can certainly come in closer and get that leg to extend all the way up, but I want you to be able to get it straight eventually. So let's anchor that thigh and begin to lengthen and bend. And you'll notice if you flex your ankle, leading your heel up, this is going to be much more of a stretch because your calf also crosses the back of the knee. So you find that lengthening in that muscle as well. And here's where I want to talk to you about a term called reciprocal inhibition. That means when we contract a muscle, in this case, it's the quadricep. As we're straightening our leg up, we're tensing this upper thigh muscle. The opposing muscle group, in this case, the hamstring, has to relax. It's just the way our bodies are put together. It's a fact of biomechanics and kinesiology. So we're contracting this left quad, and then we get the nice stretch in the hamstring. So let's do 2 more on this side. And last one. And then relax the leg down. So on the first exercise, when we hugged the knee into the chest, we just focused on the proximal attachment. The second exercise, we focused on the distal, and now we're going to focus on both. So I'd like you to keep your abdominals engaged. Pick your right foot up a couple of inches off the floor. Keep your legs straight. You can point or flex your ankle, and I'd like you to lift that leg up until your hamstring says, that's the end of my range of motion, and then go back down. And if your foot's pointed, you're going to be able to come a little further. So since today our goal is on hamstring, if you're struggling with hamstring flexibility, go ahead and either point your toe or relax your foot so you can get this leg to come up a little bit more and stretch. If you're really super flexible, go ahead and flex that ankle and lead with your heel up to the ceiling, noticing the difference here. So we have both the proximal and the distal attachments of the hamstring in stretched position. We're lengthening that muscle from both ends. And we're contracting this quadricep and hip flexor, which will send a muscle to the brain that says, relax the hamstring. Let's do one more on this side. And then release it down. Same thing on the left, engage your core. Lift that left leg just an inch or two off the floor, tighten this thigh muscle, and then send the leg up. Ooh, and then you might find this one's a little tighter or maybe a little more flexible, so just take your time. We're doing quite a few repetitions. And this is known as dynamic flexibility, sometimes called active flexibility, because we're stretching a muscle through range of motion and through movement, opposed to static stretching where we just find a stretch and then we hold it without moving for a period of time. Let's put the exhalation as that leg comes up and inhale to lower it down. If you're feeling any strain in your lower back with this, you can always bend the other knee and set your foot to the floor. And that, it's magical. It really will help if you're feeling any discomfort in the lower back. As it slightly tucks your pelvis under, gives you a little bit more length through the lumbar spine. Let's do two more on this leg. Really keep this quad tight. One more. And relax it down. All right, now that we've stretched through proximal, distal attachments and both, we'll hold a static stretch. So let's grab your yoga strap. Right leg comes up. We'll place that strap under the ball of the foot and go ahead and extend your leg to any position that feels like a nice stretch for you. And we will hold this. I've got my timer where I can see it, and I like to stay here 90 seconds. If you're watching this on YouTube, you want to hold it longer, go ahead and hit the pause button now and stay here as long as you'd like. And then bring your awareness to the breathing, really slowing down the exhalations. And that's a way that we can use the relaxing power of our breathing to help us to relax the muscle. We've talked in the past a little bit about muscle shaking and quivering. And if the muscle is shaking, you don't want to go ahead and hold the stretch because we have receptors in the tendons. They're called the Golgi tendon organ, and receptors in the muscle called the muscle spindle. And those are on overdrive and they're fighting the stretch for us. So we want to be sure everything's relaxed. So if you're feeling shaking or quivering, you can just back off on the stretch, take a break on it, and then slowly come back in. Or you might have to entirely switch legs and trick the brain into stopping that process and then come back in a few minutes' time. Let's see, we have 15 seconds. And one more breath. And then release that strap. Nicely done. Lower the leg. Take a moment before you jump right into the other side and just notice how you're feeling. From right to left side, kind of a nice, warm, stretchy feeling behind the back of that right leg. And then prepare your yoga strap for the left side. And slowly extend it up. If we move too fast through a stretch, that's where we start to fire those receptors. So we always want to go slow. And sometimes if we move too fast, it can also contribute to a muscle cramp. So I don't know about you guys, if it's ever happened to you, but if you've ever tried to do, something like dancer pose, where you stand up and then you bring your heel back behind you really quick and you try to grab it to do the stretch, and then all of a sudden your hamstring just goes boom, on fire and tightens. That's those muscles responding to that quick stretch. So we want to take our time and go really slow. So we're back to the breath here. And as best as we can, we want this leg to be completely straight. So if you've got a big bent knee here, then we want to lower that leg down a little bit. Use your yoga strap to do that so you can get the leg to come out completely straight. You can also, if you've got a wall next to you, you can take your leg actually and hold it up on the wall and just let it relax there. That way you don't have to use your arms here, and you can really find a nice state of relaxation. Let's see where we are at here. Just about 30 seconds to hold on this side, 20. Static stretching is just as good as that dynamic stretching. There's a lot of principles of flexibility that we can use to help us to increase the length of the muscle and the connective tissue and the fascia. Here's our last breath. And then we'll release that strap. We're coming to a stand to use our chair. So take your time either to roll over or to rock yourself up to seated and press yourself up to a stand. You might need to bring your yoga strap along with you also for our chair work. Now we're going to move into one of the principles of Pnf stretching. And this principle says that if we contract a muscle that we want to stretch first and then relax it, the brain says, okay, I'll really let go and allow this stretch to happen. So it's a little trick that we can send from our muscle to our brain. So standing with the chair in front of you, maybe with or without your strap, extend your right leg out onto that chair. And I want you to do two actions. The first one is to push your leg down to the chair by firing the glute and hamstring at the proximal attachment. And then I want you to slightly bend your knee like you're pulling your heel toward you. And this is going to tighten the hamstring toward that distal attachment. And then you should feel this muscle really tightening. But on a scale of 1 to 10, we're not up at a 10, we're maybe at about a 4 or a 5. And we want to hold this contraction. Maybe about 10 more seconds. Contract, contract. And then completely release that contraction and then fold forward and stretch. Now, if you'd like, you can use the strap to help pull you down. You can place your hands on top of the chair. You can place blocks up on top of the chair so that you can relax here as we stretch. We're going to do this technique 3 times. So we'll come up and again, push down into the chair and slightly pull back, hold a contraction, 10, 9, 8, 7, keep breathing, 5, 4, 3, 2, relax the muscle completely and slowly fold over the leg and stretch. For me, when I use this technique, it's amazing on the second and third time how much further I can stretch comfortably. And then we'll do that one more time. Inhale, come up. Exhale, push the heel down and slightly pull it back. 10, 9, breathing. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Relax the contraction and fold forward. We'll hold this last stretch here 30 seconds. Come back to experience a slow breath. Perhaps an ujjayi breath. That's another relaxing form of breath control. And if you haven't tried that before, when you exhale, you slightly constrict the back of your throat. It makes a soft whispering sound. And it also helps us to slow down the release of the air that's coming out of the epiglottis and helps us to relax. All right, let's come on up. And come back to release that leg down. Take a moment just to notice the sensations you're feeling in that leg. And then we'll move into the left side, extending it out to the chair. 2 actions, press down, slightly bend the knee, pull the heel back, and breathe here. So on the first contraction on the right side, we held it a little bit longer than 10 counts. And there's really no right or wrong way to do this. It's just a contract release technique, so you can do it as many seconds as you want. 5, 4, 3, 2, relax, and then let's go nice and slowly as we come down the first time on this side. And I'm already feeling a stretch. So this one not as flexible for me. 2 more breaths. Inhale, rise up. Second time, press down, pull back. Feel that tightening in the back of your leg. You can even reach down there and palpate that muscle contracting. And if you're shaking while this is happening, it's okay. You can shake during this muscle contraction without causing any adverse effects. 3, 2, and 1. Relax that muscle contraction completely before you stretch forward. So that's really important as well, that you completely release that tension and then we stretch. And 1 more breath. And come up. We'll do this our third and final time. Press down, pull back. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Release completely. Slowly fold, find your edge, and we hold 30 seconds. And this is a wonderful technique that can be used on other muscle groups as well. But we find it really beneficial with the hamstring. And let's take 1 more breath here to finish. And then we'll and step that leg away from the chair. Just noticing the sensations we're feeling in the muscles. And then we'll prepare for an active pyramid pose. So this will be another dynamic, active, moving stretch. When we were laying on our back, we moved the leg up and down. Now we're going to keep the leg still and move the body up and down. So take your right leg forward, your left foot back maybe about 2 feet, and your feet are separated hips distance apart. Hips are squared. And we're going to take the arms either forward or up to work the core a little bit more. And we'll inhale here and exhale and hinge your upper body until you come down as far as you feel that hamstring will allow you to go in the back of that right leg. And then we'll move through this. Inhale to come up. Exhale to come down. Now you can place your hands to your chair, to your blocks, to the floor as you come down. Your hands can be at heart center. I like this one as well. Or even hands can come to your hips. And I want to make sure as you're coming down that you're not rounding your back. Your spine is staying really neutral. I want you to try to keep your right leg straight. So we're stretching through the distal attachment, and then we're stretching through the proximal attachment as we fold, because we're hinging from our hip, and that's the joint we're moving. Let's do 2 more. The last one we will hold for 30 seconds to bring in our static stretching. Last one. Come down slowly, find your edge, maybe using your props, and hold 30 seconds. If you're finding you're shaking, bring yourself up a little bit, take a break on that stretch, and settle in with a slow breath pattern. When we get to the 30-second mark, I'm going to give you 2 options. And we're just about there now. So if you'd like to hold another 30 seconds in pyramid, remain there, or add a revolved triangle. So when we do a revolved triangle, you're going to keep the opposite hand down, which will be your left hand, and open out into a twist. You might have to come up a little higher to a higher surface. So our last 30 seconds, 2 choices: revolved triangle or staying in pyramid. And 2 more breaths. If you're in that revolved triangle, lower the arm down. Hands can come to heart center or at your hips. Pull yourself up out of that stretch. And then we'll switch the legs. So your left foot comes forward, your right foot comes back, maybe about 2 feet. Make sure your hips are, or your feet are separated hips distance apart. So you don't want to be standing like you're on a balance beam. You want to have that separation that gives you the ability to square the pelvis. Now keep your left leg straight. Arms can be wherever you'd like. We'll inhale, exhale, and begin to fold, hinging from the hips without rounding the back down to your comfortable stretch. On the in-breath, we come back up, moving through dynamic flexibility. Allow the breath to guide the movement of the body. So trying not to rush. But our goal here is to pretty much keep continual movement. So once you get down to the bottom and you found your maximum stretch, go ahead and start pulling back up. We don't want it like a rubber band where you get to the maximum stretch and you let go of it and it springs back. But if you took a rubber band and you stretched it out, and as soon as it stretched to its max, you slowly let it come back in with some nice control. That's how I want it to feel. Let's do 2 more. And our final repetition will be our static stretch. So we'll take it down to the edge, to our edge, wherever that may be today. And we'll hold our first 30 seconds in pyramid. And just check to make sure that you're not tensing any areas of your body that might be keeping you from totally relaxing. Sometimes we clench our jaw without even realizing it. Or we kind of ruffle our brow a little bit. So just let your head relax, maybe even move your neck around a little bit to make sure you're not tensing any muscles. And then your second 30 seconds, you can remain as you are, or you'll be keeping your right hand down this time and rotating open into a revolved triangle. You might need to come up a little bit more to get that twist. We have 2 more slow breaths here. Okay, good. 1 more breath. And then we'll rise up. And step that back foot in. Now we'll do a balance pose here. So if you need your chair for balance or a wall, I'd like you to have that accessible. What we're going to do is an active balance, also stretching through the hamstring. So I'd like you to pick up your right leg, any amount, slowly extend your leg out. See if you can get it straight. Bend your knee, lower it down. We'll do that 5 times on the right side. So the knee comes up. We contract the quadricep to stretch the hamstring, reciprocal inhibition. And down. Now it's okay if yours looks lower here so you can get that leg to straighten completely. Abs are in nice and tight, focusing on balance, good posture. 2 more this side. You can hold under the leg if you'd like. And 1 more. Bring it up. Extend. Bend. And down. Great. Shift your body weight over to that right foot. 5 repetitions slowly on the left. The knee comes up. The leg extends as we stretch the hamstring. We bend and lower down. So we're stretching the proximal attachment, the distal, to really lengthen that full muscle belly of the hamstring group out. We have 3 more. You can inhale as we lift. Exhale to stretch. Inhale. 2 more. Find your drishti, your focal point, so you can really focus on your balance. And I've lost count already. We're only going to 5, so I'm going to do 1 more. Out. And release. Excellent. Now we're going to do a downward facing dog. You can do it from a stand if you'd like. So your first option is to bring your hands to your chair, walk those feet back, drop the chest down, really open up through the shoulder blades, and hold your down dog here and tip your sitting bones, ischial tuberosities back and upward. Or we can bring it down to our hands. Walk the feet back even more, pressing the heels down. Or you can drop down to your elbows for your dolphin pose. And we're going to hold and just notice the length of those hamstrings. We've done a lot of stretching. So sometimes when we pop right into our first downward facing dog of the morning, it just doesn't feel very open, doesn't feel very pretty. We might have our knees really bent, but we have spent a lot of time lengthening out the backs of the legs. So you might be surprised at your down dog as we get into this position now. Let's hold here a couple more breaths. And then we'll rest the knees down to the mat and just take a nice gentle child's pose. And then we'll come to a seated position. Rising up, find a nice comfortable place. And now we're going to use that hand towel that I had you go grab. So what I want you to do is go ahead and fold it in half, depending on what you have. If you've got a bigger one, you might need to fold it a couple of times. And then go ahead and roll it up, create a nice roll. Actually, the thicker this towel is, the better it's going to work for the technique that we're going to do. And then we're going to be using the right leg over that towel. I'm going to turn to the side here. And if I put it underneath my knee, it's going to bend my knee for me. Now, I'd like you to sit up tall if you can. If your hamstrings are really tight, then sometimes this is the way we sit because it pulls that ischial tuberosity under, which causes us to round. So if you need to make a bigger bend in this knee, I'm gonna take my yoga blanket as an option, you can bend it more so that you can get your pelvis to stack up. And then I'd like for you to try to push the back of your knee down into your towel or blanket and pick your heel off the mat. And then bend it again, push the back of your knee down and pick up your heel. And we'll do this twice more, press down, pick it up. Now what's happening? It's contracting this quadricep, which again activates that principle of reciprocal inhibition, which allows our hamstring to relax. Now push down and hold, keep that heel lifted up, and I'd like for you to fold forward any amount and stretch. You might use your yoga strap. I'm not sure where mine went, so I'm going to use there it is. You might use your yoga strap. So we're continuing to push this knee down into your prop there to try to keep your heel lifted up off the floor and then stretch. Oh my. Let's hold here about 30 seconds. Keep that quadricep engaged. You should feel this muscle tightening. And maybe you're not coming over at all. You might just be upright and still feeling that stretch. That's fine. Or you can press from behind you and push yourself forward. Let's hold 2 more breaths. Keep pushing the back of the knee down into your prop. 1 more breath. And that knee to bend and relax. Same thing on the other side. So I'm going to shift the prop underneath my left knee, which is going to give it a bend. Then straighten that leg so the heel comes off the floor. I'm going to spin around to face the other direction here. And I think we did that about 4 or 5 times. Straightening the leg, the heel comes up, the quad tenses, and then we bend. Try to sit up tall so we're not slumped here. And 2 more. Push down, the heel comes up, the muscle tenses. Last one, hold it. Keep that muscle engaged, and then stretch yourself forward any amount. Reciprocal inhibition, which is another form of Pnf stretching, by the way. We can tighten the opposing muscle group to send a muscle to the brain to tell the antagonist to relax. The agonist is the muscle we're tensing. The antagonist is the muscle we are stretching. 15 seconds holding. Five, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release and relax. All right, slide that towel out from underneath the leg. And then you can sit up on a blanket or a block if you would like, as we extend both legs out in front of us for a dynamic forward fold. And this is Paschimottanasana, where we take these muscles, we tense them up. You can also put your blanket or your towel back under both knees to really tense the muscles, draw the kneecaps up. We'll inhale to prepare, and we've got 5 moving repetitions. Exhale and fold forward. Inhale, come back up. Exhale, fold. And I'm just doing arms up for an example. You don't have to do that. You can have them behind you pressing. You can bring them to your hips, to your heart. Two more times. Maybe squeak out a little bit more length each time. One more. And this last one, we will hold our 30 seconds in static stretching. So maybe using your strap. And I don't typically come this far forward on my first forward fold of the day, so I can tell the benefits of everything that we have done thus far to lengthen those hamstrings. It's a beautiful thing. And let's say 15 seconds remaining. And one more breath in. Exhale completely. And then rising up. Then we'll move into Janu Shirsasana, which is similar, but we have one knee bent in. So whichever one you want to start with, pull the sole of the foot to the inner thigh and let this knee open out. Now, the pelvis is going to want to turn, so try to square your chest over that leg. We'll do 5 repetitions dynamically, and then we'll hold static. So inhale, exhale, and fold. Ooh, this is harder for me because I'm definitely tight in my hip when I have my other knee in this position. So it might feel a little different for you. 3 more repetitions. You can use that little towel underneath the back of your knee too here. That works wonderful. I'm going to actually slip it there for my last 2 reps. And then number 5, we will hold for our 30-second static stretch. Good. And if you have that little towel under your knee, you can tighten this leg. Try to pick your heel slightly up off the ground so that this leg muscle is engaged. Try to keep that spine as neutral as possible. It really has the tendency here to want to hunch and round in this particular stretch. And one more breath. And release and rise up. Now before we switch, I'm just going to have you turn away from the leg, rotating your pelvis open, and take a side stretch here. You can also use your yoga strap just to loop around to pull yourself down toward that leg. Or another technique you see sometimes in yoga is to take the peace fingers and then to wrap around the big toe and to pull down this way. And really open up through the outside of that upper rib cage, through the lats. Last breath in. And exhale, release, and rising up. Ooh, excellent. Okay, let's do the other side. You're using your little hand towel. You can place it under the opposite knee. Seated tree pose. So we have the inner thigh and the sole of the foot connected. And we'll do 5 dynamic repetitions. Take a nice big breath in. And breathe out, find your edge, but we don't stop and hold there. We're going to keep moving. So once we find the edge, we slowly come up. Just as we did with our technique in different positions that we've worked through today. Using that slow exhalation or ujjayi. That towel's behind your knee. You might be able to pick your heel up off the floor to really activate the quad. And then our 5th repetition, we hold our static stretch. "30 seconds or longer if you need that today. Make sure you're not holding your breath. It's really a tendency when we hold a stretch to hold our breath. It's normal, but keep that breath moving. Slowly relax your jaw, your eyelids. You can even close your eyes. One more breath in, slowly and deeply. Exhaling completely. And then rising up. Open your torso out toward the bent knee. And side bend down. Should feel really nice through the spine. Allowing the shoulders to release the upper back. Still stretching the hamstring, but maybe not quite as deeply. And 2 more slow breaths. and rising back up. Great. All right, our last seated stretch is Dragonfly. So this has both legs extended out into a wide leg stretch position. If you're really tight in your hamstrings to even sit here, you might want to take 2 hand towels so that they're folded under both knees so you can have a little bending of your knees. Now, if it's very difficult for you to hold this sitting straight up and you have wall accessible to you, I like to sit up on a little bit of a blanket, which elevates the hips, and then just relax up against the wall. And that way I can just, not worry about pulling myself down or overstretching and focus on the breath. So that's a great way to do this stretch. Okay, we have 5 dynamic repetitions and 1 static stretch. So you can have your hands down in front of you. You can have them at heart center, at your hips, or up. And we'll inhale to prepare. Exhale and come forward. Find a brief edge. And then inhale to come back up. And 4 more. Three. 2. And last one we'll hold. This time I'm extending the static stretch to 60 seconds, 1 full minute. Find your edge. And I like to use props sometimes here for this, like a block to set my head on. You can have your chair out in front of you to relax your hands or your head on as we hold and breathe. And just notice what you're feeling. We've done a lot of stretching for the hamstrings, but I am really feeling this now in my inner thighs because we haven't really been focusing on that area much. So that seems to be my tightest link in the chain here, but I'm also feeling a little bit in my lower back. More calves if I flex my feet. And maybe for our last 30 seconds, we can sink down a little deeper, remove our props altogether. And let's take one final inhalation. Exhale. And walk yourself up. All right. We'll finish our class where we began, which is on our back. If you'd like to have a little pillow for a neck roll or for the back of the head, we'll come on down. I'd also like for you to have your yoga strap. So we are going to add the IT band into our final stretch here in a reclined position. So if you've got that strap, go ahead and place it under the bottom of the right foot. Extend that leg up, and you should have a greater amount of freedom now than you did as we started our first stretch of the hamstrings 15 minutes ago or so. And then hold on to that strap with the opposing hand. So I have my right foot, my left hand, and I'm just going to slightly pull the leg across the midline without lifting my pelvis or hip up. So I'm not focusing on a twist, but just drawing that IT band or the leg across to open up through the IT band. Sometimes it's difficult to get the IT band to stretch if our hamstrings are too tight to allow to do that. So it's a really good idea for focusing on IT band to do that after we've had a generous amount of hamstring stretching. And you can also slightly turn your foot in, which will allow you to stretch the peroneus longus, which is outside of that lower leg shin area. And it stretches through that talar fibular ligament on the outside of the ankle. And let's hold here 15 seconds. Last breath in. And then take your time to release that side. Take a moment to experience the benefits of that stretch. And then moving into the left side. If we can get this left leg straight, we'll have a better chance of feeling this more in that IT band. So opposite hand, we'll slightly pull that leg across. Ooh. And for me, this is such a different feel than from a typical muscle stretch. For me, it's almost like it's akin to feeling like a burning. And I think that might be because we're not just simply stretching muscle here on the IT band. It's more of a very thick connective tissue, very fibrous, like a tendon, but it's also attached to a muscle called the tensor fascia lata. So it has a much different feel when I stretch the IT band. And we'll hold 15 seconds. And last breath in. Exhale. And release that stretch. And let's lower both legs down as we come full circle in our practice where we began. Eyes are closed. Just taking a few more breaths to relax and to appreciate a job well done, to appreciate and honor the dedication that we have to the health of our spirit, mind, and body. And if you need more time in meditation, you can stay here for as long as you'd like after we depart from our practice. If you're following the sound of my voice, take your time to rise back up to a comfortable seat, either rolling to a side, using the strength of your arms to press up, or pulling your knees to your chest, hugging behind the thighs, and rock yourself up to seated. Find a neutral pelvis once you have found your seated position. Find good posture through your upper body, drawing your shoulder blades back. We'll take a breath together. Inhale, sweep the arms out and up as you press the palms. Exhale, thumbs to heart for positive thoughts today. The thumbs come down to the lips for positive words. And they drop to the heart for positive deeds and actions. and the light that resides within me honors and respects the light in each of you. Namaste. Thank you so much, everyone. If you have questions and you can stay on a minute, fantastic. If you can't stay on, you have questions, please feel free to text me, email me. I'm here for you at any time. I'd be happy to respond quickly to answer your questions. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day and take care.